Hello? Welcome to Walleye Tank Spring Fishing 2022. I'm Mary McCarthy with the University of Minnesota's Venture Center, and this is.
I'm Raina Hale, and I'm from the Office of Entrepreneurship at Mayo Clinic.
We're so excited to have you all here in person and those of you online as well. Walleye Tank is Minnesota's life science pitch competition. This is about the 13th, I think, pitch competition for Walleye Tank that we've had. It alternates every other year between Carlson here, except for the last 2 years, of course, and down at Mayo. And it's just great to be around people again. So this is a production of both of our offices at the U and at Mayo Clinic's Office of Entrepreneurship, but we get lots of help. All the prize money was donated by the University of Minnesota's Medical School and also by the Office of Entrepreneurship, equally $10,000 each. And we will be distributing that $20,000 to all the winners in all 4 divisions today. Thanks to Medical Alley and Launch Minnesota for their sponsorship. Thanks to Carlson School for this beautiful room that was just redone during COVID with all these little space alien little microphones. So any crinkling that you do in the audience, they might hear. So try to keep the noise down a little bit in the background. Let's see. Thank you for amazing audio video technicians who are helping us here today. Thanks to Laura Johnson in our office who helped me and Raina put all this together. Today, you will see 12 startups do their best to convince you that they are facing a real challenging problem in healthcare in a unique way with a strong value proposition, and they're the right team to do it. So those are some things to look for as the company's pitch. There'll be one winner in each division, and they will all get a big, huge blank Walleye Tank check. One of these beautiful 3D printed at Mayo trophies, limited edition. There will never be another one like it. And let's see what else. Oh, and one winner, it could be anybody from the 12 companies that pitch, will automatically go to the semifinal round of the Minnesota Cup, which is a big deal because it saves a lot of time and you still get a ton of benefits from being in Minnesota Cup. All right, I think that's all my speaking points. All right, I'd like the judges to each come up and introduce themselves so that everyone at home can see your faces. So you want to come around and just say who you are quick.
Hi, David Allison. I'm a partner at 5 AM Ventures based in San Francisco. We also have offices in Boston. We focus on biotech investments. The firm's been around for 20 years with about $2.5 billion under management.
Hi, Joe Biller, based here in Minnesota, but I'm with a firm called 3x5 Partners. It's a venture firm with offices in Portland and Minnesota. We focus on healthcare and climate.
I'm Perry Hackett. I've been a professor in genetic cell biology and development for 42 years here at the U. I've started 3 startup companies that all have certain aspects of genome engineering in their goals and missions.
Hi, I'm John Behringer. I'm a senior licensing manager at Mayo Clinic Ventures, out licensing Mayo's intellectual property. Looking forward to hearing from the companies.
Hi, I'm Chris Jeffers. I'm the managing director of Hibiscus BioVentures and the CEO of Hibiscus Biotechnology, and I run the Mayflower Incubator and Accelerator with Mayo Clinic in cell and gene therapy.
Hi there, I am Meredith Lacombe. I am a director of strategy at Mayo Clinic, and we are obviously working really hard to ensure Mayo Clinic's place in the healthcare future.
Hi, my name is Charlie Schaller. I'm Senior Director of the Optum Startup Studio, which is the corporate accelerator of Optum, part of United Health Group. So we partner with promising transformational health startups and help them grow bigger, faster, and change the world. So we're here, we just launched in India. We've got a European cohort launching soon as well. So looking forward to today.
Hi, everybody, Demi Radeva. I am Chief Strategist at Acros Advisory Services, specifically focusing on digital health reimbursement. I formerly have been a Director of Strategy, Innovation, and Business Development at United Healthcare and Optum. Thank you.
Okay, that is the end of the introductions. Let's start the competition. The first division up is the student competition, student division, and it's Efren Torres from Free Phase.
Cool.
And he gets 2 minutes with 2 minutes of Q&A from our esteemed panel of judges.
Now for slides. And I'm already mic'd up, I believe. Great. Okay. I go ahead and go. Oh, there's the agenda. I think the slides are. Oh, Mary, I think the slides are for someone else. Oh, I just keep going. Okay. Okay, great. Hi everyone. My name is Efrain Torres. I'm a PhD candidate here at the University of Minnesota, where I work at the Center for Magnetic Resonance Research. There, I develop MRI systems. Now, MRI is an incredible clinical imaging modality. With it, you can see the fine anatomical structures and details of any part of the human body without any adverse side effects. The problem? These systems cost millions of dollars to purchase and hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain every single year. MRI systems, as they are designed now, only serve the wealthiest nations and the wealthiest communities in those nations. At FreePhase, we've developed a disruptive technology and are committed to changing that. Free is a patent-pending published imaging modality that allows us to get rid of gradient coils. Now, gradient coils are a part of every single clinical MRI in the world. They take up space in the bore of the magnets, limiting patient space available for comfort, create the heavy banging noise that anyone who's had an MRI is familiar with, and create tremendous costs. We instead get rid of those and use radio frequency coils, which are already present in MRI systems, to compensate for that removal, allowing us to rethink an MRI system that is 30% cheaper than a standard MRI and 35% cheaper in annual expenditures. At FreePhase, we're committed to commercializing this technology, and we're committed to democratizing the clinical value of MRI to communities in need across the world. Thank you.
So I'm wondering about your market. Are you proposing to retool existing MRI machines or to incorporate your coils into new machines that have yet to be sold?
So we're proposing the redesigning of new MRI systems entirely and using the fact that we don't need gradient coils to design MRI systems that are cheaper than our competitors. So we categorize ourselves as a disruptive technology. So we're targeting emerging markets, and we're targeting markets that MRI systems currently can't serve because of their design. So we want to redesign an MRI with Free being the catalyst of that MRI system.
Hey there, great job. You mentioned cost savings as a major benefit here. Are there any downsides with regard to either data fidelity, the length of the asset's life?
The downsides to Free are the fact that up until now, standard MRI has been done with gradient coils. So the infrastructure for building gradient coils, and everyone is used to gradient coils. So the MRI from the physics point of view is exactly the same. The images are equivalent, except we use it using less hardware. So we design these systems, and we're looking, and we talk to scientists or even to people who create MRIs. They have a hard time understanding how we even produce those images. So that's where we point them to our papers.
So I take it that you're going to make your money by licensing the technology to MRI producers?
Actually, our ambitions are to spin off a startup entirely focused on designing MRI systems, with the fact that we can design them cheaper, reducing our costs, and competing with the large companies eventually.
How much money is that going to cost?
A lot of money. So we are in the process of identifying a beachhead market. We've been accepted to an NSF I-Corps program that has given us customer value. And we're going to use all that feedback to identify the most realistic beachhead market to design the smallest and cheapest system for ourselves and for our consumers. But short-term answer, we don't know yet, and we will figure it out.
Quick question. What is your expertise in emerging markets, and do you have that on the team?
So currently, I don't have any expertise in emerging markets. I only have personal expertise because I grew up in a under-resourced community in the south side of Chicago. But we do have teams of 2 MBAs, but one from Nigeria, who this issue is close to his heart as it is close to mine growing up in a Latino community in Chicago. And we have a team very passionate and seeking that information. Nope.
Do you have a plan to partner with any groups, or is it primarily bootstrapping, or what's your intent to bring your product to market?
In terms of partnering, that is an ongoing discussion. So we're open to partnering. We're just much more focused on creating an MRI company in itself. And whether that be partnering with other smaller companies, that's certainly on our vision and a potential. Okay, go. Oh, sorry.
No,
There you
that's
go.
all good. Hello, everyone. My name is Carolyn Kersalverson, and I'm here on behalf of my team to present our device Illumini, which improves patient outcomes for cancer treatment of ocular melanoma. Ocular melanoma is a metastasis-prone cancer that occurs in the choroid, a thin vascular region of the eye. The most common treatment for ocular melanoma is plaque brachytherapy, which involves a gold plaque with radiation seeds placed on the eye around the perimeter of the tumor. Surgeons have difficulty placing this plaque because the tumor grows on the inside of the eye and the plaque goes on the outside of the eye. And there's not a high resolution method of visualizing or determining that the plaque was placed accurately. Our device seeks to improve patient outcomes by ensuring that that plaque encompasses the tumor entirely, therefore reducing the risk of metastasis as well as shortening the procedure time. Our device consists of a thin silicone band with inset micro LEDs that illuminate the circumference of the plaque and the tumor, as you can see in our computer renders. This device not only directly solves the lack of plaque placement verification, but also seamlessly integrates into the current procedural workflow as the band can be stretched around the plaque. Surgeons who perform this procedure have had experience validating the use of our design in the porcine model successfully. To move on to the market, there are nearly 2,000 cases of plaque brachytherapy procedures each year, and with a 36,000 per procedure estimate. Our market size is around 72 million. Our 5-year revenue projections are around $1 million, and that's just below 30% profit margin. Thank you so much on behalf of my team. We're really excited to continue both the technical and developmental work of Illumini and believe that it will ensure better patient outcomes for ocular melanoma.
Quick question, great presentation. What is the cost per device? And then also, do you have an estimated idea on what the actual per procedure reduction time is with the use of this?
Yeah, so there's 2 components of the device. There's the disposable, which is the band, and then there's the controller. The band would probably be around $1,000 and the controller would be around $2,500. And in terms of the reduction in time and procedure, what's causing the increase in time right now is moving around the plaque over and over again. So the typical procedure lasts around 2 hours, and we're seeing maybe like a 30-minute to 45-minute reduction.
I agree, that was great. Are we seeing changes in the modality of surgery that would maybe make this a less relevant solution 10 years from now? I'm thinking computer-assisted laser surgery, things like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is actually a procedure that's been like this forever. There's actually not any disruptive technology that clinicians that we've spoke to are kind of seeing coming up that would maybe change the way that they decide to treat this cancer. And in that case, our device would be around for a long time.
So I'm Carla Pavone. Thank you all for coming here today, and thank you both the Office for Technology Commercialization as well as Mayo for doing this over and over again with, and you've just seen two of our amazing students as just examples of what you're going to be seeing. What I want to just tell you quickly about is MinCore, Minnesota Innovation Corps, which has been at the University of Minnesota for 8 years and also works with entrepreneurs across the state through Launch Minnesota. And our focus is on helping science and technology entrepreneurs at the super early stage figure out what their value proposition is. And what's exciting to me is 7 of our former participants are competitors in this program, and they have kept going, moving on. And so it's exciting to watch all that development. I want to invite you all to 2 things this summer. First of all, with the Institute for Engineering and Medicine, we're going to be sponsoring a weekly series of seminars / happy hours, both hybrid, so you can watch it through Zoom, or if you come to campus, you get food and drink. And that's going to be all about medical technology commercialization. And the second thing is our next set of value proposition workshops will be starting up later in June as well, both for the broader business community as well as for academic teams. And through the magic of mailing lists from Eventbrite, you will get that additional information. And so now, Mary, I will turn this over to you for whoever's next.
So the clicker is over here. I'll take that for just a second. Well, judges, good luck with the amazing teams that you just had for the students. Just as a reminder, I'm Raina Hale. I come from the Office of Entrepreneurship, and I thought I'd take a little bit of time, like Carla did, to talk a little about what's happening at the U, to talk a little bit about what's happening at Mayo. Many people assume that it is a black box and there's no way to connect with us, but actually there's lots of ways to connect with us, and I wanted to go over some of those pointers. Some fun facts about us is that since 1986, we have had 274 startup companies, including Mayo Clinic Technologies. We've had over 10,000 disclosures that have been filed, almost 9,000 patents filed, and of them 3,300 issued. The Mayo Clinic innovation ecosystem is quite large. We partner with many who are here in this room in Minnesota, including the Medical Alley Association, Collider, et cetera. But we also have a really intense internal ecosystem to Mayo, and that's where our office falls in line. We are empowering a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship through education. So it's often that we think in silos. We think that the clinical work at Mayo Clinic is one thing and the research or education is another. Well, it doesn't have to be independent of one another. It can actually be in this 3B model, which is what we teach, this accelerate the discovery, translate, and then apply continuum, which is why we're celebrating entrepreneurship and innovation here today. So for us, there's a lot of different ways that internally we assist clinicians, students, residents, fellows, researchers, et cetera. But from an external perspective, we have something called the Hatchery, and the Hatchery is a incubator, a wet lab incubator in Rochester that is for the moving forward of the baseline idea. So it's actually a subsidized wet lab space that we have 3 companies right now, all which have SBIR, STTR funding, thanks to Pat and the accelerator. We also have what's called the Innovation Exchange, the Mayo Clinic Innovation Exchange. And this is an area where external startups as well as Mayo Clinic innovators can come together to get support. So an external startup can reach out to Mayo through this kind of collaboration where they get expertise, government agency expertise, industry partners, academic collaborations, et cetera. Another one, which many of you hopefully are seeing at least some things happening on LinkedIn and what's happening with the Mayo Clinic platform Accelerate. This is a new program coming out of Mayo Clinic, and it is an external facing program. This is a 20-week virtual program that enables and empowers maturing AI health tech startups that are solving the most challenging problems in healthcare. They will have a chance to test and enhance their AI model performance using the Mayo Clinic platform technologies and leveraging Mayo Clinic's de-identified data sets. Through this time, they'll receive mentorship and education coming out of Mayo. They'll have partnerships, and then they will have a demo day at the very end of this 20 weeks that has a ability to present to Mayo Clinic as well as 65 other network health systems in our network. And of course, I would not be doing justice if I didn't tell you we do another Walleye Tank this year, and it will be hosted at Mayo Clinic. And it is in partnership, actually, not just with the U, but also with Platform. So mark your calendars now for December 2nd, because it will be in person in Rochester in the cold, but we are opening our doors for a full day of innovation. So there will be tours happening on campus. You'll get to tour the facilities. You'll see research laboratories, talk with different Mayo Clinic inventors, and hopefully we won't just be a health system far away from the cities, but an opportunity for you to really see what's going on behind Mayo Clinic doors, as well as that day will coincide with the demo day for the Accelerate program. So looking forward to that, but I realize you're not here to hear me speak. You're here to see these teams, but feel free to reach out after this or on LinkedIn or whatever to contact us if you have any questions about what we do. With that, let's start with the junior anglers. Here, I want this back.
Thank you. Okay, hi, I'm Ibrahim from Meld Bio, and we want to expand access to kidney dialysis globally. And why? By 2030, 9.1 million kidney failure patients may not be able to access treatment. And this is mostly in countries in Africa and Asia where there's little health insurance and patients have to pay out of pocket. Health authorities now recommend peritoneal dialysis, a treatment where fluid is infused into the abdomen. It drains toxins from the blood in place of the kidneys. And this treatment requires 8 to 10 liters of fluid daily, every day. And this is the challenge. The fluid has to be imported, and by the time it gets to these countries, it's expensive. And even when you import, there are delays that results in expiration of the fluid. Even with in-country manufacturing, you still have to transport the fluid around regions, and that gets very expensive. But the fluid is over 95% water and just less than 5% active ingredients. So our idea is, why not generate the fluid in hospitals mixed with concentrates to produce enough fluid for 100 patients monthly. We built a prototype and we have encouraging data that shows this is feasible, and we filed a provisional patent. We've conducted over 150 interviews with patients, providers in these countries, and with distributors, even with regulators in West Africa. And with insights we've gotten, we've chosen Nigeria as our target market, a $60 million market. And we think we can get to a commercial pilot or in Nigeria by 2025. This is our team. We have the expertise and experience to actually take this to market. For instance, Dr. Wright, our technology officer, is a global leader in purification and electrodialysis technology. Dennis, for instance, used to lead Baxter's billion-dollar IV fluid business. Thank you very much.
Judges.
So that was terrific. It obviously fulfills a need, but I'm wondering how you protect this from a business point of view. It sounds like you're just putting together a chemical cocktail that would be hard to have IP protection on.
Thank you very much for that question. And you are correct about the fluid. It's been around for over 100 years. You can't patent that. But what we've done is we realized the business is in being able to sell consumables. So the concentrates and the empty bags. So we have proprietary interfaces that makes producing the fluid safe, especially when you're infusing in the bags. So that's the part we're protecting, and that's how we ensure that we protect the business.
Real quick, I mean, usually in situations like this where you don't want to have to ship large amounts of liquid, which is obviously expensive, you have a lyophilization or something that allows for reconstitution at the back end with just water. Is that not an option for this? And is that something that you worry about from a competitive perspective if somebody were to just have a lyophilized or something you can reconstitute on site?
So thank you very much for that question. So when we've spoken to people in these countries about this, the kind of technologies they have to generate water is very slow. And that's part of why our technology is very important. It's able to generate the fluid at a rate that is high enough. So this patient needs 8 to 10 liters of fluid a day, about 250 to 300 liters monthly. If you are doing that for about 100 patients, you can imagine how much fluid is needed. So the usual technologies for purifying water and trying to mix is very expensive. There's also the issue of requiring a clean room to properly mix the API with the purified water. And that's very expensive for small dialysis centers in Nigeria to put together.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, for our next team.
Thank the organizers for this opportunity. I'm Naveen Ilangovan. I'm pitching for Rehab Medics today. We are a team of researchers with expertise in physical therapy, biomechanics, and rehabilitation engineering. Here is someone who woke up one morning with stroke and realized she's not going to be able to use her upper limb and she's going to require a lot of physical therapy. Her name is Jennifer. Each year, there are about 800,000 Americans who have stroke. About 80% of them have upper limb sensory and motor deficits, which require a lot of physical therapy. An estimated annual burden of $103 billion is caused by stroke. So we have a solution that can help people with stroke. So WristBot is an exoskeleton robot that allows movements in wrist and forearm. This device, this advanced prototype, can provide empirical measures of upper limb sensory and motor function. It can also deliver advanced rehabilitation exercises that are patient-tailored, customized, and adaptable. It is targeted to improve sensory and motor function. It can also improve muscle strength, flexibility, and coordination. Now, the most important question, is there a market? Market reports indicate that the rehabilitation robot market is expected to grow up by $1.6 billion by the year 2028. Our own customer discovery efforts indicate that the inpatient rehab facilities in the United States will be our target market. The rehab facilities will buy these devices, buy robotic devices, to improve patient outcomes as well as care efficiency and increase, thereby resulting in the revenue increase. We have raised about $750,000 in non-diluted federal funding in the form of commercialization grants to the University of Minnesota. Our current efforts include continuing to secure more of these funds and to prepare ourselves for the product launch by the year 2024. If you take these steps, right, you know our technology can help.
So what's the current standard of care for these patients?
So current standard of care include physical therapists being with them in person to deliver exercises. So they get about 30 minutes of physical therapy a day during inpatient. And then during the outpatient care, they get about 3 sessions a week and for up to 3 months, depending upon how much like their disease condition.
So is the intent to supplement the current standard of care, or is it to have a whole new solution?
It'll supplement, so it's not going to replace a physical therapist. It's going to be a device that can have minimally supervised care. So it'll improve the standard of care. So the patient will be able to complete more exercises, more than 30 minutes for sure. So with minimal supervision by improving their outcomes.
What's the cost of the device? And you showed for wrists, but clearly stroke is a bit more extensive than that often.
That's a great question. We are thinking ahead as well. So this is the first device. So this idea is scalable. We can scale to other upper limb devices. As you pointed out, wrist is not the only upper limb joint. There are multiple joints. We're establishing this idea that we can improve sensory and motor function by using robotic devices. It's scalable to multiple joints, and that's our product portfolio in the future. And your first question, the cost, it's about for this particular device, I'm estimating about $15,000 to $20,000 for manufacturing. We're still identifying the details.
We have time for one more question.
Well, I'll follow up on that. Do you imagine that a stroke patient then would have several robots?
So there are some things, well, I cannot disclose some of the things that we're working on, but we are looking at devices which will work together. It'll be an integrated platform to help people with stroke. So yeah, I'll be happy to talk offline if you have more questions. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rehabnetics. Team up. I'll let you go ahead. This will be our last team for the juniors division.
Good afternoon. I am Tamara Voss-Draper, and I am partnering with Robert Wudlick from Adapt Design Works. We are creating smart seat to prevent pressure sores. Pressure injuries are a serious problem. They affect millions of people. When they occur, they can have serious consequences, including death. Each one costs around $40,000 to treat when they occur. Prevention is a challenge. In fact, people with spinal cord injuries are at highest risk, and 85% of them will develop a pressure injury in their lifetime. And in that population, pressure injuries are the only secondary condition that has not improved in the past 48 years. And we hope to change that. The wheelchair market that we are working in is estimated at $734 million. That's expected to increase or double by 2028. We have competition. Our competition does not address as many features as we plan to include in our system. So it's not as comprehensive. Smart Seat uses AI to monitor several conditions directly at the seat surface where the conditions matter most. Our estimated market capacity is $49 million. And our annual renewable estimate is 15 to 20 million. We expect payer reimbursement through product sales and therapeutic monitoring. I've been working for the past 10 years on research and development on the software aspect of the system, focusing on user engagement and feasibility of using continuous pressure mapping. Our next focus is now developing the sensors. We need better sensors to make this product commercializable and marketable. So this summer, we're planning to work on the prototype that we have developed. We have a STTR under review. And so that is where we are heading. And my time is out. So I'll take questions.
Hey, great presentation. I know a major source of pressure sores is also people who are long-term in beds. And so I'm wondering, how difficult would it be to scale this from a chair to also for bed-bound patients?
Yeah, that's a great question. We hear that often. There are bed mapping, pressure mapping systems currently that hospitals use and long-term care centers, and some that are made for home use. We're interested in day-long sitting related pressure for people who have prolonged sitting. So I'm interested in helping people who are in their chairs all day long and monitoring those conditions for them so they can go about their everyday activities. And so, and the bed surface is just as important, but there are some systems that can monitor that currently.
So regarding the solution, is the intent to have a patient potentially shift if they have some sort of flag from the app, or how would the app generally work in a broad sense?
Yes, so the intention is the system automatically detects using pressure measurements and other sensor measurements, factors like pressure increasing, time, moisture, shear, and then it gives them an alert. But it also can detect when their events occur and then adjust the alerts as needed.
Any other questions? All right, well, thanks so much. This concludes the junior division, and I would like to welcome up Pat Dillon, SBIR STTR Accelerator.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to be here in person. So you've probably heard these acronyms, SBIR, STTR. Well, these are federal grants or contracts to support R&D in startups and small businesses. And you've heard through a number of companies today. Well, they have all are working through us with the accelerator. And one of the things that we do that is very important is to help companies navigate that complex and competitive environment to get to the funding stage with that federal grant or contract. And I've been doing this for over 30 years. And so I, know a few things about it, but I work very closely with Carla, with the Technology Commercialization Office, with the Mayo Clinic Office of Entrepreneurship. In fact, we do a graduate course that we hold every summer with members from Scottsdale, Jacksonville, and Rochester. So we're in that space between the federal government and what's happening here in Minnesota. And we're the liaison to those federal dollars that are so important and so critical to startups and existing companies to help de-risk a technology for eventual commercialization. So thank you. You can reach us at MNSBIR. Just type that into Google and you can get connected to me. Thank you.
Wonderful, thanks. All right, so we are going to move on to the mid-level reelers, and we are going to start here in just a second with NovaClade.
Sorry for that. Anyway, I'm Siba Das, CEO of NovaClade. Nice to be back on this forum. I can attest to Pat's SBIR clinic. I have been a recipient of, she has been a great help for me.
We're always worried that we have errors,
And we do.
On Zoom, and here we are, we're gonna have the same problem, so don't worry about it. There you go, you can go ahead
Cool.
and press the arrow.
All right, cool. Well, now that that's gone, what I would like to do is, I'd like to start by talking about a farmer. I met him a couple of years back. His name is Jerry on Tide. He grows vegetables and fruits. Starting 2014, he had some infestation of little flies in his farm. And it was such a bad infestation that he couldn't continue growing those fruits anymore. He had to spray like every week, weekly basis. Before that, he had to spray like maybe once or twice in a season. And then after that, he had to spray. And we cannot emphasize the loss and the cost that increased because of this additional spraying. So I met him and I talked to him about this issue, and he was like, can we just get rid of this insect by any means? he's not alone, really. World over, there insects cause billions of dollars of damage every year, and that's despite spraying chemicals on them. And it's only going to grow up and up because of global warming. The problem is we don't have an effective control system for insects. We have this tried method of chemical control, which do work on some extent, but they cause additional damage to the environment, and countless lives have been lost because of this, the chemical impact of chemical on the environment. What I'm proposing here is a solution that we can use to not use chemicals, but use effectively control of insects, and it's called sterile insect technique. It's nothing new. What we have done is we have implemented a different system using genetics. Here we sterilize the insect using genetics, release the males, and the males will do their job, reduce the population by themselves. We have had several patents in different stages of approval. And we are kind of sitting alone in this space where we can make it affordable to farmers, at the same time control the insects effectively. The opportunity is really huge. It's a $12 billion industry, and it's growing really rapidly at 15% per year. And we are really happy with that market. We can just go to that market really quickly. With that, we are starting with this insect that Jerry has been struggling to control. That's called spotted wing Drosophila. And it is a $200 million market. The fruit fly lays eggs inside the fruits, and those eggs hatch into larvae. They cause the damage. It's been really difficult to control, and people have been having, they're just moving out of growing these soft skin fruits because of the difficulty to control them. Sorry. We have been really lucky that we have gotten a lot of federal dollars. Just recently, we got $1 million from NSF, which has been great for us to develop the product in the lab, get some regulatory approval. And later in the year, we are looking to do some contained trial for this insect with a partnership with the Department of Agriculture. With that, we are seeking additional funds, which can lead us to actual sales point that will be around 2025. Of course, spotted wing Drosophila is not the only product we have. We have several others in pipeline at different stages of development. And I will be remiss if I didn't talk about the awesome team I have. We have regulatory experts, financial experts, obviously scientists, over 70 years of genome engineering experience, over 40 years of business development experience. And with that, I will invite you guys to support us if you can, if you share the same passion of environmental or environment. Thank you.
Great presentation. So this approach has been used in mosquitoes, obviously, for a while, and has been, adopted by a number of different countries like the Caymans and others. But I think one of the concerns has been the ecological impact as these modified mosquitoes begin to get out in the regular population, and what the ecological impact of that. Have you thought about that, or do you have any kill switches or anything else in the technology that you could eliminate that?
Right. Great question. Absolutely, we have thought about that. A beauty of this technology is that we have kill switch built into it. We release only the males, and these males are by design. Once they die, they don't transfer the genes to another organism or any other females or anything. Once they die, they are taken out of the system. So if something goes wrong, we stop the release, and after a couple of weeks, they are gone out of the system.
Yeah, great presentation. Maybe a question of who pays for this. So with the case of mosquitoes, it's the DNR.
Right.
With pesticides, it's the farmer. Where does this sit, and how would you monetize the technology?
Right. So our primary customer are farmers like Jerry, who has been really bothering me about when it will be ready, and he wants to do it in his farm. So we are mainly focused on agricultural insects at the point, but of course mosquitoes are on our pipeline, which will be there at some point.
What does the distribution of this look like? Is it expensive to move?
Right. So there is something called beneficial insects, and we are looking to utilize that model. I don't really have the product ready for me to distribute them tomorrow, but that's the model we're going to utilize. Also, we have talked to several chemical company distributors who could keep these, some of these insects, we can store them as eggs, and they could just keep it in the shelf for some period of time, and farmers would just go to that particular place, purchase it.
So this is being delivered locally.
It could be wherever.
So I guess my question would be, if I'm a farmer and I'm paying X thousands of dollars for this, but my neighbor is not, are there healthy breeding insects just a few feet away that could very easily come back in?
It could, depends on where we are releasing these insects. So we have done some mathematical modeling work to see how migration or immigration of insects could impact it. And we have seen that it's not going to be a necessarily problem. We could just release throughout within the inside of the field, and there will be some that could go outside if they are growing a different kind of product. Let's say they are growing other fruits, which these insects don't want, then they would come back here.
Wonderful. We're gonna have to wrap it up and move on. Thanks so much, Snowblade. If you didn't notice, and I did not mention that the pitches have now moved to 4 minutes. So this division and the next division are 4-minute pitches, and this will be given by Q rounds.
Hey everybody, my name is Mike Pitt. I'm a pediatric hospitalist. And what that means is I take care of kids that are sick enough to be in the hospital. It also means I know the pain points of the hospital well. So both as a doctor and an administrator, but as well as a patient, a parent, and a loved one of patients. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about what we're doing at Q Rounds, a digital solution to solve one of the most frustrating parts of being in the hospital, and that's waiting around. So this question, not knowing the answer to this question, when will the doctor be here, is one of the major sources of frustration and expenses and inefficiencies for hospital systems. Each morning as a doctor, we make rounds. So we join the medical students, we meet up with the nurses, the patients, ideally the families of the patients, to discuss the most important plans for the day, why the patient's in the hospital, when they get to go home. Medicine is a team sport, and not being able to coordinate when we all arrive to the room by not knowing when the doctor will be there is a major source of frustration and problems. Let's take a look at that. One, communication is the single greatest source for medical errors and malpractice claims in hospitals. Not getting the entire team at the bedside sets up a very dangerous telephone game where we're not there to hear the plan for the day. Also, this leads to decreased bed turnover. The doctor is the rate limiting step for a patient being discharged on discharge day. Not knowing when they're arriving and coordinating that causes patients to stay minutes, hours, even days beyond discharge, and each minute costs hospitals money. But the emotional core of this problem, if you've been a patient or if you've been the loved one of a patient, is when you don't know when the doctor's going to be there, that is an exhausting, stressful place to be. Not knowing if you can go to the bathroom, if you can get a cup of coffee, or even make it to the hospital in time to hear about your loved one's care is a pain point we can solve with Q Rounds. So how do we do that? We are an AI-powered virtual queue that provides time transparency to increase attendance at daily round. So time transparency, we've come to expect this, especially in the pandemic, in every arena of our life. When is my package going to arrive? When's DoorDash getting here? When's it my turn for a haircut? When's the table ready? The one place that matters the most, we don't do this well at all. And that's what we're solving. So how does it work? We have developed a software solution where providers see their patient list in the morning. This is imported from the electronic health record. With AI and their own decision making, they optimize the rounding order they plan to go. And when they hit start rounds, that pushes a text message to every stakeholder for that patient. The family, the parents, the nurse, it gets sent to the nurse communication device, documented in the electronic health record. And they can click on that single hyperlink to follow real-time updates. I'm 8th to be seen, I'm 6th to be seen, I'm next to be seen. And when I'm next, I can press a button to join rounds virtually from anywhere in the world. My dad was hospitalized for three weeks last month. And every meeting I started with, I'm gonna have to go sometime between 7 a.m. and 2 because I'm gonna get a really important phone call to join rounds. We're trying to eliminate that process and treat people with respect with time transparency. Having the answer to this question decreases medical errors, gets the team. This is a best practice that happens about 5% of the time. We can make it 100% of the time. We can improve hospital throughput by making discharge days more efficient. And ultimately, we can improve patient experience by treating them as valuable members of the healthcare team. This is a big market, so we can make money in this space. Our go-to-market strategy is academic children's hospitals. We're focusing on children because every single pediatric patient has a family member that needs to be updated. We're priced as a software as service company at a contract of about $300,000 per hospital in our go-market strategy. Have great traction doing our first developmental MVP with our development partner, mHealth Fairview, are in G beta. Our team is poised for this with PhD educators and computer programming, a business lead, and advisors that have run this race before. Thank you for letting us tell you about Q-Rounds. We're excited for you to partner with us to try to make the hospital system more efficient, less frustrating by taking the waiting around out of rounds. And I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Great presentation. How does it integrate with other software and systems within the hospital? And how do you, second question to that is, why can't some of those same platforms just add this on as another?
Yeah, let's do the first question first. So one is, this is easy integration through APIs through many technologies, the electronic health record, the communication devices hospitals are already using, so pager devices, phone devices. So those are actually all just code. So that part is actually quite easy to do those integrations. We're uniquely poised as one. We are in this nice market of a Venn diagram of clinical decision support, telehealth, and patient engagement. And there are players in each of those spaces. We have been laser focused on this for 2.5 years and are way ahead of them. So one of the plays certainly may be partnering with people that already have that customer base, white labeling things, making their product better. But we have a really unique angle in the market.
Is there room for additional product add-ons beyond this initial application?
Yes, so this is our entry point. Once we have this relationship with families in the hospital, which is quite unique, real-time texting about the care while a patient's hospitalized, we see ourselves as a patient satisfaction gathering tool. So these are surveys that die in a mailbox, and they're 3 weeks after you get out of the hospital, and the response rate's below 10%. We actually think we can do real-time patient satisfaction that's actionable, and maybe even the bigger product.
Love the passion, by the way.
Thank you.
So from an NPS perspective, this makes a lot of sense to me. So I guess my question is, does having these queues on a delivery perspective show an increased efficiency?
Yes, so we've done 3 pilots in our system. The very first pilot was in the NICU during COVID. So these is heartbreaking to say that parents were not allowed in the hospital. I mean, just to remember that was a year ago that this was happening. That first family that was in Duluth got a text message when it was time to round on their patient. The red student who was not allowed in the hospital got a text message to present from St. Paul, and the nurses were at the bedside. We were able to kind of implement that right away, in the hospital system. Our pilot we're doing right now is to get to those value points. How are we showing bed? So we have patient satisfaction, no question, to your point. But those metrics of the value proposition, bed turnover, getting the best practice of the team to the beds, ultimately health outcomes from that communication benefit. That's what we're studying at the university.
Is this going to be used beyond just when your provider will see you, will be your loved one's out of the OR, your loved one is out of their X-ray?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Once we've developed this time transparency, this does not just apply to rounds, it applies to your food is on the way to the room. There are just a lot of things that you don't get treated with the dignity that you get anywhere else as a consumer except in the hospital.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're gonna have to wrap it up at that. Thanks, Q-Reads. Next up is TU Med. This will be the last team in this division.
Good afternoon. TU Med is improving a surgery that 1 in 4 men will require in their lifetime. A surgery for benign prostate hyperplasia, or BPH. This is a disease that every male has that results in his prostate slowly growing, eventually obstructing his ability to urinate. With time, this turns into serious quality of life and health issues that result in half of all men requiring medical intervention and half of these men requiring surgery to remove the obstruction. For over 20 years, I've worked with the urologist doing these procedures using all the different types of tissue removal. And I can tell you that they're all inefficient, they're costly, and the results are unsatisfactory. In addition, attempts to improve this procedure face numerous barriers, further frustrating everybody. Now, surgery is not going away, so we need to improve it. And this is what TUMed has done. It starts with an approach that is easy and comfortable for you to adopt by utilizing tools, skills, and technology that the urologist already has and uses daily. We add to this a surgical device that is able to remove obstructing tissue at twice the current rate with improved surgical precision. And this is accomplished by our unique woven electrode that's able to create a larger, more aggressive tissue removal zone and a side-firing design that brings better control to the tissue removal process. These features combine to reduce procedure time, improve procedure outcome, and free up scarce resources. In fact, we estimate that we'll be able to reduce the average procedure time of 90 minutes by 20 of those minutes. Our device is a 510(k) pathway with no need for human clinicals and will be sold directly to hospitals at a price point in line with current medical devices. In addition, our device will be covered by existing reimbursement codes. We'll launch in the US market, where there's currently over 400,000 of these procedures done a year, giving us an annual market of over $320 million. Why TUMed? Our team has decades of experience in this market with this procedure and this technology. We're second to none. And we're supported by a team of advisors that are internationally known and respected experts in their areas. To date, we've raised $1.4 million. We've been granted 3 device-related patents. We've completed functional prototypes and comparative testing that has established our performance. And most importantly, most excitedly for me, is we've begun to introduce our technology to the urologist, including surgical simulation labs, where the response can only be described with wow, and when will this be available? Towards this effort, we're currently fundraising $8 million that'll take us all the way through our next major milestone, which is FDA approval. In closing, TUMed's approach to BPH surgery brings substantial improvement to all stakeholders, and I look forward to detailed discussions on our approach and why the urologists love it. Thank you.
It's a great presentation. Thank you. Quick question on clinical outcomes, and if you think you'll need to demonstrate superior clinical outcomes to drive adoption, or if there's other metrics that docs would be looking for.
Yeah, so good question. The main metric they'll be looking for is time savings. But we do anticipate that we will have higher end clinical outcomes, because right now, one of the major reasons there's customer dissatisfaction, patient dissatisfaction, is because the procedures take so long that the urologist doesn't remove all the tissue that he's been trained to or needs to. So the level of relief and the length of relief just isn't what it used to be or needs to be. The fact that we can remove more tissue faster will allow surgeons to do a better job.
And it looks like you got a $4,500 reimbursement on the procedure and your $800 your cost. How does that compare to the existing hardware that's being used in the procedure, and how's that going to affect profitability of the procedure for the institution?
Yeah, so they're right in line, right? So when it comes to a procedure like this, it doesn't matter if I'm using bipolar or monopolar or laser, my reimbursement fee is the same. So, and the cost of the device will be the same. So where we bring benefit to the hospital is you're getting that amount, but you're not using as many resources to get that. And if we save 20 minutes per procedure after 3 procedures, I've got a whole nother hour to do, maybe 3 cystos or maybe another prostate procedure.
Could this same procedure type be used for prostate cancer procedure, specifically preserving nerve tissue in the area?
No, you wouldn't use that for going after prostate cancer. Just vaporizing tissue spreads the cancer cells. That'd be a tough sell.
Talk about, there's a lot of players in the space and you touched on a couple incumbents, but there's, what about other venture-backed companies? And then a follow-up to that is, 510K is a great, quick pathway to market, but adoption is a totally different animal. And so kind of to dovetail off of David's.
Yeah, true. So on the last point, we know that we'll need clinical data to effectively launch and take market share. So while we're waiting for FDA approval, we'll actually go outside the US and do white paper studies so we can launch with the walk the talk data, right? As far as the competition, it really depends on what market segment you're talking about. Are you talking about office-based minimally invasive therapies that don't remove tissue? We're not in competition with them. Those therapies are great and they have their niche. But a high number of patients that come in for those procedures aren't candidates and they move right on down to surgery. The other thing is those procedures provide moderate level relief for a moderate period of time. I mean, the data coming out is 50% of those patients either stay on their meds or start meds to maintain some level of relief, right? And so when it comes to removing tissue, then it narrows rather quickly. You've got the laser monopolar bipolar with Olympus totally dominating that market segment. Boston Scientific with green light dominating the laser, right? And the monopolar is just a whole bunch of clinger-ons that want to get rid of it but can't afford to switch. And so what the beauty of our system is, we don't care whose glass and steel you use, which is all the access equipment. We come in and we make you better, more effective, more efficient with the skills you already have very quickly.
All right, we're gonna have to wrap it up at that. Let's give everyone an applause for the mid-level reelers.
Okay, moving on to the professional division now. These presenters get 4 minutes and then 2 minutes of Q&A at the end. First up is Amy Garza from CURATE Medical. Okay, thank you so much, Mary. University of Minnesota, Mayo Clinic. Great to be here. Just make sure I'm moving the right direction forward. All right, CURATE Medical is transforming the paradigm for how blood pressure is monitored with an end-to-end remote monitoring solution that is enabled by our core technology, which is a continuous and circadian blood pressure monitor that's inserted just under the skin. I'm Amy Garza. I am the founder and CEO of CURATE Medical, and I'm an electrical engineer with 25 years in the medical device industry. And I know we are going to disrupt the blood pressure monitoring market because I'm using that same successful playbook that was used to disrupt the insertable cardiac monitoring market. And I was part of that team. That is now over $1 billion market and was one of the fastest growing products in the company's history. We have made significant progress in a very short period of time. I'll highlight a few things. Recent FDA breakthrough device designation, and we're in a pre-sub conversation with the FDA now. We have completed fabrication of our custom proprietary wafer scale sensor, and we have now integrated that into our 2nd generation prototype. We have patents and we've won a handful of awards as well. Here's the challenge. The current tools combined with patient behaviors lead to delayed and suboptimal treatment that puts patients at risk. The current approaches are infrequent and sporadic, yet blood pressure is continuous and dynamic. Additionally, the tools themselves are non-standard and they are plagued with error in the measurement technique. This leads to uncertainty in the data and delays control. The evidence is well established that blood pressure variability over day and night, and specifically nighttime blood pressure, is associated with cardiovascular events and organ damage. When it really matters for those treatment-resistant, uncontrolled blood pressure patients, Doctors need better tools to monitor circadian blood pressure and those trends to identify risk in advance to potentially prevent a catastrophic event down the road. CURATE Medical addresses those challenges and has a solution, and we will shorten the time to intervention. One of the things that we do is we have 100% compliance to monitoring because our product is inserted just under the skin in a simple office insertion procedure, and it eliminates any patient action required. It eliminates the patient anxiety and awareness associated with the measurements. And the circadian factor that we bring in, we are the only solution that will provide 24/7, 365 blood pressure insights over day and night to help inform treatment for the patient. So half-life of medications, risk of cardiovascular events, and allow that early intervention to potentially prevent those catastrophic events down the road. We have a novel, disruptive approach. We have demonstrated proof of concept in vivo, and in the coming weeks, we have our next proof of concept in sheep, ambulatory over long-term. And I want to just add here, what we're doing here is totally different. This is way more than just blood pressure. We are getting direct image quality, dynamic measurements of the vessel, pulse wave velocity, arterial stiffness, and elasticity. We have superiority over the competition, and I'd be happy to talk a little bit more about that. 100% compliance, completely actionable. Doctors see this as superior to wearable technology, and again, the only solution for day and night monitoring. We have a $6.8 billion US market that we're pursuing, and our team knows how to do this. This is our space. We do implantable medical devices, and we have expert advisors that bring credibility to what we're doing, and they hold us to our milestones, not to mention a long list of supporters and partners. CURATE Medical truly will disrupt the way we monitor blood pressure, just like continuous glucose monitoring has done for diabetes. We will identify that risk in advance and improve the care for these patients with hypertension. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Great job. Can you describe, I mean, maybe, I don't know how many patients this has actually been done on, but describe the patient experience, because I've seen other technologies where on the cover it sounds amazing, but when you actually get patients in the clinic and their willingness to have something like this. And a second question to that is just the safety, you know, what kind of safety issues have you seen with any early patient data you've had?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to reference what we did, which is really leveraging that same successful playbook from insertable cardiac monitors. We are still in preclinical animal work, so we haven't done a first in human yet with our device. But exact same situation. Why in the world would somebody want an invasive solution when there's plenty of cost-effective wearable solutions, Holter monitors, event monitors? Patients aren't going to want it. I heard that over and over. Patients aren't going to want it. They're going to be resistant. Absolutely, there's going to be patients that are going to be resistant. And there's going to be a significant group of people that get it. If you get physicians that believe in the technology and see the benefit in terms of diagnostic yield, patient outcomes, being able to really get them on optimal therapy, they're going to sell it to their patients. The size and form factor and the procedure is almost identical to insertable cardiac monitors, if you're familiar with that. So it's a 5-minute procedure, a simple little stick, put it under the skin, put a steri strip over it in general.
And maybe just a question on who pays for the technology and what kind of data will they need to see? Is this a cardiovascular outcomes study that takes years, or is there some more near-term kind of acute metric that you can provide?
Yeah, we do have an acute near-term metric. So we're planning to leverage healthcare reimbursement. We expect that we will end up being de novo. We have a plan to drive some initial revenue, but we will need to do clinical studies to get the clinical and economic outcomes we need. The huge benefit that we have is there's been so many studies done in blood pressure. So we know that when you lower blood pressure, you get reduction in strokes, reduction in chronic kidney disease, reduction in heart attacks. We have that. What our barrier and what our threshold is that we'll have to achieve is showing When you have our device compared to the standard of care, we can get blood pressure lowered and keep it lowered. Okay, that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Charles Chan from Zurich Medical.
Hi, my name is Charles Chan. I'm one of the founders for Zurich Medical. So we're in the interventional cardiology space, and one of the things that that we have happening is when a patient goes in and gets their cath, the physician is looking for blockages visually after shooting dye. The problem is that sometimes these visuals can be a little bit deceptive. So here you'll see two different patients. One of them has a blockage and one of them actually is okay. Now, if we take a look at the blood pressure across the two zones, so if you see the red dot and the blue dot, the comparative pressures are shown below, and the patient on the right has significant blockage versus the patient on the left. But if you only look at the image, you wouldn't be able to get that same decision making. So this is fractional flow reserve, FFR. And what you're trying to do is you're measuring pressures across a lesion. Here, the key tool is the guide wire that goes past an arterial blockage and is measuring pressure downstream. That's actually really hard to do because you gotta get that pressure sensor past the blockage. And if you take the pressure difference between the distal pressure of the blockage with the proximal pressure that you can get from your arterial line, that ratio is your fractional flow reserve, FFR. The lower the FFR, the more severe the blockage is. So FFR really became a market when this New England Journal of Medicine article was published called FAME. It really gave commercial legs to being able to do this regularly as a product. And since that time, and since 2012, the ACC/AHA has already given Class 2A guidelines published for usage. And so we really see FFR market continuing to grow and potentially growing to $1 billion market. Now, there are a lot of competitors in this space, the big ones, Abbott, Philips, Boston, they're here. They haven't really updated the technology. And I'm gonna jump through for one of the things that you're gonna see compared from here to us. Now, our core competitive advantage is that we don't have any capital equipment. And you saw in the previous one, every single company has big capital equipment they need to roll into the cath lab to be able to do the procedure. We started with a white sheet of paper and built it basically watching how physicians use it. And for us, that really is one of our core selling points. The other one is, like I said, the competitors have not really updated their guide wires since they started developing it. That was over 20 years ago. And we know this because all their patents have expired. And so from a use standpoint, the physician is using 20 plus years old technology for guide wires that, I mean, they're milking this as a cash cow. And so we've built our guide wire from ground up, and that's where we're at. We've got our FDA clearance, we got our CE mark, we have 11 issued patents, and we're currently in limited market release. We've done cases with our product in US, Europe, and China. This limited market release is to help us validate product performance, as well as help us develop our commercial strategy. So for our commercial strategy, we're looking at either going direct by ourselves, distributors, or possibly doing inside sales. So if we win the Walleye Tank competition, we'd use the funds to validate this pilot study for inside sales. So thank you very much. Happy to take questions at this point.
What kind of functionality is in the competitive devices, the capital equipment devices that we would lose or would gain between your device and their device?
Yeah, you'd lose very little actually. being able to enter a patient's name into the file, having, I guess, the records of it kept. So for us, we built it very similarly to taking an ACT score for inside the cath lab. They would draw blood and look for ACT. We watched them do that and we asked, hey, if you did this for FFR, would this work out for you? And they said, absolutely. I mean, we just type in the FFR, even with the larger machines.
Nice science, but what are the market aspects to this? What are you looking for here?
Yeah, so that capital equipment piece is really critical for us. One of the things is, you know, are we going to be competitive in the big hospitals, the Mayo clinics, or, you know, at the U? No, actually, there's a new versioning market for us that, like, we're racing to get to that hilltop. And these are ambulatory surgical centers. In the South, ambulatory surgical centers are very similar to what we have here for orthopedics in the Twin Cities area, right? We have TRIA. You don't go to a hospital for doing an ACL repair. The same thing in the South, you don't go to the hospital for your cath, for a very basic cath. You're going to these centers that are like clinics, and they do the procedures. They are not wealthy enough to buy a full system. And so they don't do FFR.
No. What I meant was, what do you want from us and what are you going to give back to us after a couple of years have passed? What's the investment opportunity?
Sure. So for us, like I said, if we win the Walleye Cup, we are looking to figure out how we're going to sell. And we have a pilot study that's unfunded at this point. We're looking to see if we can try this inside sales method that some of the other companies have been doing. It seems to be working really well for startups. You know, if you are a juggernaut, if you're the Medtronics or the Abbotts of the world, you know, you shove it down your distribution, you're good to go, right? As a startup, am I going to hire 5 sales reps to try to cover this at $250,000 a piece? It's rich. Right? Am I going to hand over my business to a distributor that it's going to take, you know, half of the ASP right off the top? That's the traditional method. There's a method of inside sales that I think will work really well for us, but it's an unfunded pilot at this point.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Next up is Doug McMahon from AllerMed Pharmaceuticals.
So I'm Doug McMahon, and I grew up with a life-threatening allergy to food, and I still have that. So as a young child, I was always told to carry an EpiPen with me. No matter where I went, friends' houses, baseball games, everywhere, I had to carry the EpiPen. Super big, super bulky. So even at a young age, I thought, why is this thing so big? And so even when I was in medical school, I was thinking, all right, how can I make this smaller? So I started studying it and doing research on it. And I became an allergy doctor. And at that point, it was really heartening to see patients come in and I say, okay, here's the EpiPen. And they say, I can't afford that. It was even harder to say, all right, your kid has a food allergy, and the parents say, I can't afford that. It was really tough on me. And so at that point, I said, all right, I'm going to make this company a reality. So I formed AllerMed Pharmaceuticals at that point and developed a team around me to make a better epinephrine device. So that's what we did. There's 32 million Americans with food allergies. Probably everybody in here knows somebody that has an allergy. They're very big, as you can see, and they're very expensive, unfortunately, too. All the doses come as a twin pack. In case one dose is not enough, you're supposed to give the second dose. So that's kind of partially the reason why they're so big. So with engineers over the years, we were able to actually develop the first double dosing. Let's get over that one. Double dosing epinephrine device. So we've created eDuo, which is an adult version and then a pediatric version, eDuo Junior. So right now I have the device on me. It's a lot smaller. I can just carry it on my keychain. So this right now is the same equivalent as this. So kids can carry it on their backpacks now, carry it on my keychain. So now it's with me everywhere we go. It's a huge market, $1 billion market, almost going to be $3 billion in a couple of years. Rates of food allergies are rising, so this isn't going anywhere, unfortunately. We are going to get 3 devices through the FDA, the adult version, the pediatric version, and then a hospital pack. We've done surveys for other providers who are looking favorably about our device. As you can see, some of the competitors here, the EpiPen initially was made, just kind of had a fun conversation talking to the guy who first made it. He never intended this to be walking around everywhere. This AviQ is a nice device, but it's extremely expensive, has a lot of little gimmicks in it, talks to you, a lot of different things, brings the price up very high. As you can see, the price is there, where ours is supposed to be a lot lower, and also about half or a fourth the size of other devices. So we're gonna have the eDuo Junior, and then a pharmacist came to me and said, you know, in the hospitals, we keep throwing away these EpiPens every year because they expire after about a year. We're throwing all these out. Can you do anything for us? And I said, all right, well, we're already filling little micro cartridges. We could probably fill syringes. So that's what leads me here today, is that we have a flu, almost like a hospital pack for flu shots. So basically, these are all filled with epinephrine. Problem is, we already pre-filled these thousands of these devices to go in the other devices. So the dose has to be the same. We need a clip to only administer a certain amount of the epinephrine out of them. And so we need to work with some prototype labs and then develop a couple thousand of these to go through the FDA to show that it's clipped, to say, okay, we're only administering 0.3 mLs for that. And so that's what we're looking for right now. We get this $9,000. We already have a matching grant from the Minnesota Launch Program. We have about $20,000 for us to develop these clips, test them to make sure they're accurately dosing, and then develop a couple thousand, and then we can run with the FDA with it. So we have a great team behind us, a lot of people with expertise, and a lot of advisors. And so any other questions for me?
Good to see you again. New name, right?
Yeah, we were Allergy Medical when we first came out in 2015.
Yeah, so congrats on the progress. In terms of the dynamics in the marketplace with your competition, what's the IP protection right now?
Yep.
You know,
So we were granted a full patent on our double dosing device last year. We have a full functional patent.
and when does that expire?
It was granted last year, as long as we're going with it. I think it's like 12 to 20 years. I'm not sure.
And is there something about the dosing that enables you to decrease the footprint so dramatically over an EpiPen? I mean, you're giving a more concentrated form of epinephrine or something like that?
So it's a couple things. Since we actually have the double dosing in it, we have a higher volume actually in there. And that's actually one thing. The higher volume actually allows a more stability of the epinephrine. So we actually have a longer shelf life than the current products too. But we really just kind of focused on it through our design the whole time, saying, okay, it's smaller. And I work with engineers. Oh, look at this. And I said, no, small.
So to clarify, is your product a double dosage or double dosing?
Double dosing. So you administer one dose. If you need the second dose, which about 40% of people do, there's a certain mechanism where then you can administer the second one.
So I guess my question is, it's a less liquid, so it's a stronger amount, so less is delivered in the first dose?
So it's actually, no, the same volume is delivered. 0.3 milliliters is in the first one, and then 0.3 in the second. But in that cartridge, we actually have a higher volume in that cartridge, and that leads to more stability. But through our design process, we already knew that, and so we were able to kind of design it really small along the way.
So on that double dosing, I mean, if a patient only needs a single dose and they have the second dose still available to them, do they have to discard the unit at that point? So basically in from a cost effectiveness standpoint, if you buy 2 EpiPens, you're going to get to use both doses, but if you use this, you may be paying for a second dose that you're never going to use. Is that right?
That is possible, yes. But our price is almost half theirs. And then also, if you look at the longevity of people using epinephrine that have them, I'd probably say only about 3% of devices, if that, are ever used. You know, just because they, you know, it's an insurance policy. Yep.
The last presenter of Walleye Tank 2022 Spring Fishing is Eric Morrison with Superior Nano.
Good afternoon. First, I have a question for everybody. Are we all familiar with nanoparticles? And how many people have a familiarity with oncology and nanoparticles? Okay. How many anti-cancer drugs can you name that are based on nanoparticles? So there's a reason for that, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm with a company called Superior Nano, and going back. And the problem with a lot of cancer drugs is that they're bricks. They bounce right off of people, the intestinal wall, and the skin, and they just drop to the floor. Very hard to get these large molecules into systemic circulation to treat cancer. And that's why you haven't heard of any anti-cancer drugs that are based on nanotechnology. Because they require intervention to get them in the bloodstream. So what we're confronted with is not that nanoparticles are useless for this purpose. There's thousands and thousands of papers, but the translation to the clinic is practically zero. And the reason's really simple. You can't make them. People will start with a thimbleful, and after years, they'll work up to a bucket full, but they never make them by the barrel full. So if they are used for cancer, they're used for those rare cancers that have no other intervention possible, really high price points. What would it look like if we could change that up and make nanoparticles in such a way that they're good for everybody? So today, as you made your way here today and got out of bed, you were touched by an old technology many, many times. Every bit of water that you drank, if you used a plastic bag, if you drank from a plastic bottle, if you ate spaghetti, if you, ran on a car that has tires, you use something that was made with twin screw extrusion. So twin screw extrusion makes tons of stuff. What would it look like if you could take twin screw extruder and make nanoparticles? That's kind of an absurd thought. And people will tell you that that's impossible. But we do that. And the way we learned how to do this is we bought ourselves a twin screw extruder using a loan that we got from the IRB in northern Minnesota. And we learned how to encapsulate drugs, not by encapsulating drugs. We learned how to do this by encapsulating cosmeceuticals. So there's a lot of cosmeceutical ingredients that are effective for nutrients and for skin health that are equivalent to those anti-cancer drugs. They're large molecules, they have poor bioavailability, but there's a benefit for us in developing this technology. The first thing is we can experiment with things that are cheap and they're not toxic. Another benefit is that we can sample through very many different APIs. And so we have cosmeceutical compounds that have a pretty good match to the compounds that we want to serve up for oncology. And there's another benefit, and that is that when we make these nanoparticle compositions with cosmeceuticals, we can sell them. And we can make them in a lot of different flavors. So what you're looking at here is a table full of a day's product. And you see, they look like sausages. They're polyethylene tubes that are filled with extruded nanoparticles. And the different colors are different flavors. Coins NQ10, ascorbyl palmitate, betulin. That just goes right on down the list. So what we're selling today, you can buy it on the website. This is for the people that say that you can't make nanoparticles with a twin screw extruder. You can buy it on our website. But we need to take it to the next level. Well, I just came from a meeting with the NIH where we're working with them to do this, which is to take that bioavailability of a compound that they made, that's brick dust without the nanos, and boost the exposure, and boost, this is an oral AUC curve. That's what we're doing. We have a grant from the NSF SBIR that's going to allow us to make these nanoparticles with the different anti-cancer, and it's for MS, it's for ALS, it's for diabetes. This is applicability across the full spectrum of therapeutics.
Yeah.
We have a grant
Eric,
that
probably should end there. It's been over 4 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to just say we have a grant that allows us to make these products and put them in the hands of drug companies and universities for preclinical testing. So what am I here for today? I'm here to get help. This is very new. It's very embryonic. We've done a lot of work to show no ifs, ands, or buts, we can do it. We need help to make this therapy available to people. And we're really just starting. Thank you.
So of course, we are familiar with lipid nanoparticles and the big question, and Pfizer's making billions of doses a year. Are the drugs that you want delivered incompatible with this mass marketing of nanoparticles by Pfizer et al.?
So yeah, that's a great question. Pfizer's delivering a vaccine where it's micrograms of the dosage form. Most oncology drugs we're talking about milligrams, at least tens of milligrams. So that's right there is a clear difference.
Are you making any modifications to the extruder such that you've got protection around that, or can someone do this? I mean, how are you going to have a barrier to entry there if because it's old technology? LNP is an incredibly crowded space. I probably see more LNP companies now than almost anything else, and so it's how are you going to keep out the competition? And if you really can use this old technology to build this, how is everybody else just not going to follow behind you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Hands down, there's no doubt that the process itself is unique and nobody can copy that, but that's an enforcement issue. We just moved the patent portfolio from one law firm to Merchant and Gould, and they said, look, this is not process, this is composition of matter. Not only can you get composition of matter broadly because there are concentrations and of a nature that's never been seen before, but API by API by API, for at least the first 10 or 20, each API is a new invention. So the patentability of this is phenomenal in a pretty crowded art area.
Could you briefly describe what kind of supportive data that you might have, either preclinical or clinical?
Yeah, so we have published one paper in an international journal of pharmaceutics with the University of Minnesota and Case Western, where we show the transdermal bioavailability. And we have data that I can talk about and I can share from the NIH for the oral bioavailability of a compound called ML290, which is a relaxin agonist, small molecule.
Okay, we're out of time for questions. So that concludes the pitching part of today. Now the judges are going to retire to the judges' room and confer and select the winners. Please network amongst yourselves for the next half hour or so. Come back at about 4:10 or so for the presentation of who the winners are today. Thank you.
I will turn the microphone on. Good afternoon, and thank you for sticking around for the awards portion of the Walleye Tank. My name is Ann Schulte, and I am the lead executive in residence with Discovery Launchpad. We are a service of the University of Minnesota's Technology Commercialization Office. We've got roughly a dozen executives in residence who work with university startups to help them prepare for pitch competitions, but really for building and launching a business, working with investors, and bringing the value of University of Minnesota research to the broader community. Another thing that we do is through the state Minnesota Department of Economic Development. We work with DEED to support all of the Launch Minnesota grantees. If you're part of an organization that has a DEED grant from the state of Minnesota, we want to help you. Our team of executives and residents will be offering free assessments, that is free to you, of organizations, technologies, and business plans. And then we will invite a cohort of those who have been evaluated to come through our full Launchpad experience. And in that full Launchpad experience, your team will be paired with 3 experts relevant to your field. One of them will be a CFO in residence, and then we'll bring in other experts as needed. We also have the ability to tap some folks on regulatory, as well as some legal advice here and there. Now, how do you get this, you say? If you're a Launch Minnesota, that is DEED awardee, you will be receiving an email from that program next week announcing it, and all you will need to do is send us basically your contact information, your pitch deck, and or your executive summary. That's it. And then we'll reach out to you to say, hey, we'd like to do an assessment. When can we connect? And all of this is through the Technology Commercialization Office here at the University of Minnesota, and our very worthy advocate and contact point, Mary McCarthy.
All right, with no further ado. So this is interesting listening to the judges talk about everybody. Overall, they said everybody did a beautiful job. So I'm really proud of the work that you've all done. A lot of effort has been put into these, and they were all delivered with a lot of professionalism. So thank you for upholding the Walleye Tank brand and making this a great event. So we're going to start with the student division. And if you're here with somebody, come bring a camera so you can take a picture and you can post it on social media. But come over here. So for the student division, the winner is Free Phase. So Efren. So Free Phase wins $2,000 in cash.
Congratulations.
The runner-up, let's see, well, there's only 2 in the student division, so. Okay, yeah, the next time. All right, so the junior division, the runner-up is Meld Bio. No. Super. And the winner is Rehabnetics. All right, the mid-level reelers is $5,000. The runner-up is NovaClade. And the winner is Q Rounds.
Oh, I did the selfie.
Congratulations, Q Rounds.
The professional division, it's a $10,000 check to the number one, but the runner-up is Allermed Pharmaceuticals. And the winner of $10,000, and my dearest respect, is Corby Medical. And the winner of the free pass to the semifinals of Minnesota Cup. This is a little difficult because many of the winners here today are already in Minnesota Cup in the next level. So the winner that goes on to the semifinals is NovaClade. I know, you get to go through again. Yeah. All right, so that concludes right at 4:30 when AV is done. So thank you so much, everyone, for staying on time, and great to see you all. Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye. Oh, come to dinner. Come to dinner at Dayblock Brewing if you have time. Free pizza, dinner. You have to get your own beer unless you convince me to buy one, but I will see hopefully some of you there. Have a good day.